Hey, thanks for stopping by the studio. Glad you could hang out with me today. Today what I'm doing is I've mocked up a countertop and an R60 carcass. This is an old R60 mixing console I got off of a friend for doing some work for him, and he gave it to me. So it's kind of a parts console. I have the complete console, but for this purpose, we're going to make some marks and cut some holes in this countertop so that we can run wiring through to get over to the wiring blocks over there. So for this project, I'm using a hole saw. This one is, I don't know, 2 inches maybe, inch and 3/4. And I'm going to cut a few holes. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I get the holes uniform, because I do have OCD. And yes, the drapes will be going away. So the opening where the wires go is about 3 1/4 inches. So I'm going to make the mark at 1 7/8, which is, close enough to center. I'm going to mark it twice at 1 7/8. Now this countertop is not mounted down yet, so if I lean on it too hard, it will slide, but it's just kind of mocked in place so I know what I've got. And now I'm going to need a straight edge. So now I'm going to take my handy-dandy scale and use it as a straight edge to mark a line across where I want to drill my holes, because I do want them all to be kind of in a row with each other. Even though you're not ever going to see this, I'd still like the holes to be kind of lined up and uniform. So I've made my marks inside on the table. Boy, this console sure is sticky. What the story with that is. Of course, it was sitting in the other room for a while, and my kids decided they were going to use it for a trash can, so that's nice. All right. So now I got to decide where I want the holes and how many I'm going to put in. So I guess I'll put one about every 4 inches. So I'll start at the 1 inch mark, then 5. And that ought to give us plenty of holes to run wiring through. And there's our first hole. Now, when you use a hole saw, it's really kind of a pain in the ass to get this little slug out of here. So what I do, and I'm told you can shoot lithium grease or different things in there, but what I like to do is take a small screwdriver and try to work it backwards, because if you can turn it backwards on the drill bit, it'll just unscrew. Maybe I should turn around and show it to you face to face. If you hold it and you just unscrew it, a lot of times it'll come right out, and then you can dump your sawdust in the trash can. Most of it's inside the bell there of the hole saw. And then we'll move on to the next one. slugs can sometimes be a real major pain in the ass to get out of the hole saw. And I've heard different tips and tricks for getting them out, including using lithium grease on them and all that kind of garbage. But I think one of the coolest tricks that I've heard is when you take a drill you get your small drill bit, you drill a small pilot hole on either side of the drill bit in the hole saw. And then you take your Phillips head bit, you know, when you can remember what the hell you did with it. I used it 30 seconds ago. It's right there. It is. There it is. I'm telling you right now, ADHD is a terrible master. You take your Phillips head bit and grab yourself a couple of wood screws. I like these little sheetrock zip screws. These probably aren't long enough. Let me get a longer one. And then what you do, and you got to drill the hole, because if you don't drill the pilot hole before you do this, you're going to kind of create a wedge, and then you'll never get the thing out of there. You just got to get them started, and then run them down in there. Come closer so you can see what I'm doing. Probably wouldn't kill me to unplug the drill while I do this. So I'll come closer and show you what I'm doing. So I got the screws in the hole saw there, and we're just going to run them in. Slowly run them in, and then when they bottom out on the hole saw, they will push the slug out like that. Now, it's kind of a long way to go around to get the slug out of the thing, but sometimes that's about the only way you're going to get it out. Now, back them out a little bit so you can turn the slug. You can use these screws as your turn handle to kind of get that slug to come out. Well, the whole thing came apart. So, and be careful because these things are hot. You just work it back and forth, and there you go, it's out. I suppose you could save the screws if you wanted to, and use them again on the next time you have to do it. So maybe that's not such a bad idea. I'll go ahead and do that. My wife will be watching this video and want to know why I'm wasting screws. So there you go. All right. So that's two. You could use a boring bit, or some people call them spade bits or paddle bits. Don't believe you can get a paddle that's that big, though. I think, and I like to have nice big holes so I can feed stuff through without them getting stuck. And the key to this is to leave yourself enough room so that later on, if you want to add something, it won't be so hard to run new wires. All right. Now, we're ready to make hole number 3. Lined up on that mark that we made earlier. So let's get the chop back out, clean up the dust. And of course, this table will get a real proper cleaning before the laminate goes down and the new console is actually installed. But I wanted this here so that I could actually make up my wires and know exactly where they were going to plug in on the new console. And here is the holes we cut today. You can see they're big enough for wires to drop down through and make it over to the wiring terminals, then to come back and plug into these connectors here.